So counting and tracking calories, yes or no?
Ooh, yes and no.
Great answer. I think that'll do it.
Yeah, so I think tracking calories, unless you're a professional athlete, where your life is training, your life is having to make a certain weight or be a certain body fat percentage for something, I don't think it's really something that you should do forever. I think it's just a tool. I've gone through periods, I think, where I've tracked quite religiously. I've also gone through periods where I've been eating more intuitively, not tracked at all. And then I've also, at the moment, I'd say I'm doing tracking maybe like the first half of my day and then being more relaxed.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because if I'm strength training, I really want to hit protein. So I try and make sure breakfast and lunch I hit the majority of that. So at dinner I can be a bit more relaxed. Yeah, what do you think?
Honestly, I've been in the game for a long time and I've never tracked my calories. I've never tracked my nutrition, like ever.
Yeah.
But I track other things. And I imagine, for example, like I track my training, I track my working out, I program in advance so that, you know, I know kind of have a set schedule, program, what I want to do. But ultimately that gives me structure. It gives me, you know, easier reflection so that I know that I can make that a bit more difficult, or I could tweak that, or I need more work on this and less work on that. So that's one thing it does for me, or did for me, is added structure.
Yeah.
Do you kind of feel the same way when you're tracking calories? It gives you structure, or do you feel like the numbers can easily take over a little bit as well? You rant.
I think both. That's why my answer is yes and no. I think it depends what your motivation is and what kind of headspace you're in at the time. When I first started tracking calories, it was because I needed to lose a large amount of weight, 5+ stone. Now I'm in a position where I'm never gonna probably need to lose more than about 4 or 5 kilograms, which is really not a lot at all. And you can probably do that by increasing activity a little bit, or just mindfully cutting out a few things. 4 or 5 kilograms is not a huge amount. Whereas when it was a huge amount of weight I needed to lose, the motivation for me was daily hitting the calorie target and the protein, and watching my body weight come down. Obviously the progress wasn't like this, it was more bumpy and not every day was perfect.
Yeah, it's real life though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think if you acknowledge that not every day is going to be perfect, it can be a good thing to do, particularly at the start of your fitness journey. But I do think we're more self-aware than we give ourselves credit for. So I think if you're coming to me as my client and you're telling me, I really want to track calories because I want to lose a certain amount of weight. If my question after that is, do you drink alcohol? Your answer is yes. And then you tell me you drink 7 nights a week. In that instance, my initial response would be, don't bother about tracking calories. Because I can already tell you, if you reduce your alcohol intake from 7 nights a week, even to 5, which is quite a big step, it's likely that you're going to lose weight, lose fat, feel healthier. And for me, I probably hid, in the beginning, I probably hid behind that counting, when really my issue was emotional binge eating. Like, I wasn't uninformed. I knew that I should be eating fruits and vegetables. I shouldn't cut out carbs. I want a nice rounded diet. I can eat junk food, that's fine. But my issue, I didn't really need to track calories. I needed to deal with my emotional binge eating, because you can track calories and do that amazingly for several weeks, and then when you hit that day where, because you're in a particular place, you end up packing away 6,000 to 8,000 calories, you then work yourself up into a rut and then start really reducing far too much, and then get caught up in this numbers game. So each person's different, but I think if you have a very difficult relationship with food, particularly binge eating, or maybe some sort of history of an eating disorder, I'm not qualified to talk on this, but I would, if you really have struggled with that yo-yo dieting, restricting heavily, anorexia maybe, something like that. Maybe tracking calories is something that needs to be thought through quite carefully.
Even as just a short-term thing, maybe like a 21-day, you know, it's not a 21-day fix by any means, but in that time you might learn some kind of structural routine or, you know, have an idea of who you are and how much you really need based on your activity level and things like that as well. Could be good.
And I know for me, when I say that my problem, and still sometimes is the emotional binge eating, the tracking I then decided to do when I wanted to get real with myself was tracking my emotions. And rather than saying, okay, every day you're going to eat 2,000 calories and blah, 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 you're going to track this, I went through a period of time where I was doing a lot of binging, and I thought, actually, let's get real with myself. Let me track how I feel before a binge and after a binge, because that's the important tracking for me. Do you know what I mean? It was like, okay, what's triggering me to eat that amount of calories out of nowhere? Oh, it's tiredness.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
Interesting. And then how do I feel afterwards? Ashamed, disgusting, fat, bloated, unwell. These things happen. You shouldn't feel shame, but I did. And so the important tracking was how do I feel before and after? Because the issue is the binging. What's surrounding that? It's not about protein, fat, 2,000 calories. It's about why every now and then are you eating 8,000 calories in one go? It happens. It's fine.
It's
whatever.
life.
But something's happening there that needs to be addressed, and it doesn't come through tracking calories.
With me, with nutrition especially, and other areas of my life, the lack of tracking, I generally go by feel. I've always gone by feel, especially with nutrition. You know, for me, I mean, I'm going to fuel my body for generally performance in the gym. And I know that, you know, if I'm eating the right things and enough of the right things, I'm going to perform a lot better in the gym. But like, I think not tracking it, not getting too caught up in it. Like, I know for a fact that I go off track sometimes, and I've had weekends where I've binged. I don't think I've ever looked back and gone, like, why did that happen? What was the reason for that? Because I just go by whatever. Like, I feel terrible now. I don't feel ashamed. I just I feel horrible. I feel physically horrible. So I'm gonna. That's it. And I don't wait generally till like next Monday. If I feel like that, I know I'm gonna feel really good after just one meal. Drink some water, eat a good fresh meal, do a workout, do a bit of stretching, and get some good sleep. I'm gonna feel great. It's not gonna take me too long. Like for you, you know, with that kind of emotional relationship with food, do you feel that, like, if you track calories, like roughly how long would you do that for, and how long would you recommend someone who's, you know, in the same boat? Would it be like a 3-week thing, or would it just be a couple of days, or would it be a week? Because obviously you can't make it. It's a lifestyle thing, right? You're not going to make it a lifetime.
Sure.
You can't live by the numbers for the life.
And the thing is, for me, I'm in a very fortunate position where the only person I have to worry about is myself in terms of food. I'm not shopping and cooking for a family or for children. So actually, for me, it's relatively easy to track, but it is still quite a pain for me as an individual person who can cook and prepare food quite easily just for one. So when you're adding in like a partner or living with friends or a couple of kids into the mix, it becomes very all-consuming and actually an added stress. And I think anything in a fitness or lifestyle journey, you want it to be sustainable. And so, and that's how I feel about, I'm not going to name them by names, but certain diets that tell you to cut out a complete thing.
Winds me up.
Yeah, it actually, there's some medical benefits in that for very specific reasons. But for the average person, if it's a diet that tells you to cut something out for a period of time, it's probably not sustainable. Because if you're saying, okay, don't eat any carbs, first of all, carbs are in pretty much everything. So that's saying don't eat vegetables, because vegetables are predominantly carbs, which no one really realises. But if it's not sustainable forever, why bother, in a sense? Like, tracking calories does have its time and place, but now I think I judge it by each individual person.
Okay. And
I think.
So say if you get the right person and then you recommend, okay, let's track your calories. Like, how do you generally go about it? Like, what's the best way that technology wise, like what apps can they use? What kind of, how to track
So what
data?
I do, if a client came to me and they say, I've got 5 kilograms I want to shift and I'm happy to track calories, I'm happy to sacrifice that. What I would do is I'd say download MyFitnessPal. There's multiple different apps, and you've got to be careful because sometimes they're not always accurate, because anyone can add anything to MyFitnessPal. So if if you're not quite sure, always check with like an alternative source, but generally MyFitnessPal is pretty good. You can also set, you know, your macros up into that and it sort of fills up throughout the day. But I would normally say to a client, do that for a week. A week's normally a good time because you've got Monday to Friday where most people are generally quite controlled with food and alcohol and stuff. And then you've got the weekend that for a lot of people they let loose.
Yeah.
And I like to see that week or even 2 week kind of that big variety. And I say to someone, when you start tracking, don't change anything about your diet in the beginning. Don't say, okay, now I'm on a health kick. I mean, literally track what you normally eat, because otherwise how can you see what the issue is?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, then you come back to me with that food diary on MyFitnessPal that's been tracked for 2 weeks, and I might see that, oh, the issue is you're never eating breakfast. So when it gets to lunch, of course you're eating a really calorific sandwich, a packet of crisps, a chocolate bar, and then that doesn't really fill you up. So then you're eating your kids' leftovers from their dinner. Before you then eat dinner with your partner, you then have 6 glasses of wine. So, oh, now I understand why you're several stone overweight, because you're not actually consuming that much, but what you are consuming is high in calories and not very filling or nutritious. And then once that's been tracked for 2 weeks, I can sit down with someone and say, well, this is what I've noticed and what I see the problem is. How could we address that? So if the problem's alcohol, maybe we could try drinking 4 nights a week instead of 7. If the problem is chocolate every single evening, could we do that maybe just 3 or 4 nights instead of every night? Even
replacements, like there's a lot of good plant-based chocolate now.
Exactly.
Some of it's amazing, some of it's awful, but some of it's really good. Wouldn't know any different.
So and then, you know, some people like to continue tracking calories for a while, but I think the issue is with relying on numbers to determine your success. It isn't always a good show of success. Don't get me wrong, if you need to lose a lot of weight for health reasons, you probably do need to be quite mindful of bringing those calories down and sticking with that. However, when it's just small little bits of weight here and there, I think, like you're saying about, you know, tracking training, tracking sleep habits, mood as well, massive thing, or how you fit into that pair of jeans that used to feel a bit tight, that is more of a sign of progress than progress pictures as well.
Progress pictures are huge. So whenever we do fitness reviews, I always recommend people, you know, if you want to do the measurements and stuff, if that's your thing, great. I think it works, you know, for a lot of people. I don't do that. I don't weigh. Don't get me started on weighing scales. Like, honestly, sick of them.
Let's have that conversation.
We'll do that another time. But honestly, I probably shouldn't speak about it. Be a lot of passionate swearing on that one.
What do you want to say?
I just, again, that number.
Because this is saying to the track, it's this preoccupation with numbers, which
you can be
is necessary 30% of the time,
right,
I'd say. So what's your issue?
You can be so governed by numbers, and the number on the scale doesn't tell you. It's how can it be a progress indicator when it just gives you the weight? What's that composite? What's it made up of? The water, the fat, the muscle, everything else that you can't track on your basic little scale that you bought from Aldi.
Have you ever been 5 stone or more overweight in your life? No. So you're coming at it from a point of view of someone who has generally always been a moderate healthy weight, right? If you're coming at it from a point of view where regardless of what fat, muscle, water you have, you are 15 stone overweight, it is a numbers game. So
I see what you mean.
I know that I used to fall back on this excuse time and time again, which occasionally I still do. You do your BMI and blah, blah, blah. Now my BMI says I'm borderline obese, right? So actually it's more like right in the center of overweight. So I put that in on the NHS website and it tells me your ideal weight should be between 51 and 68 kg. Now to me that's a problem, because if I was 51 kg, you wouldn't be able to see me. I'd be like, I'd be ill. So there is a side of that where you think it's a little bit too light. However, I feel like I'm at a good weight for me, and I sometimes use the excuse of, but like, I have a lot of muscle. Which is true, but I'm still also carrying too much body fat. And when I was quite a bit more overweight, I'm happy with how I am now. My body fat's normal actually, so yes, it is muscle. But back in the day, whereas 5 or 6 stone overweight, I'd always, you know, I'd go to the doctors and they'd weigh you for certain different things. and it'll be like, your BMI is really high. And because I didn't want to do anything about it, my excuse was, yeah, but rugby players are technically obese.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders are technically obese, and they have zero body fat. Now, of course, the BMI thing doesn't work for everyone. And yes, you look at a bodybuilder who has a friggin' six-pack, they're literally 10% body fat, the epitome of health. That's another conversation, because bodybuilders aren't the epitome of health.
I'm with you on that.
But some are healthy, most aren't. But I was not a bodybuilder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a very high fat percentage. I was technically obese, and for health reasons, my body weight needed to come down. So in that instance, if you are on a journey where your fitness journey started and needs to take place for health benefits, because you need to get 10, 15 stone of extra weight off of your body, I think in that case, it is a numbers game to some extent. Yeah. Those numbers need to come down.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, looking at it simply, absolutely.
Having said that...
But like, body composition is important to a degree. I mean, an
sure.
80 kg elite functional athlete and an 80 kg, you know, like, say, a girl who's overweight, they're going to look very different. And it does come down to that, obviously. But anyway, sorry, what were you going to say? I cut you off.
I can't remember what I was going to say now.
We're off subject now, completely. But,
you know. The excuses, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're unhealthy, and by unhealthy, I'm not referring to overweight, because I think you can be technically overweight and be healthy. Like, I'm technically overweight, but I'm relatively healthy. Like, could I be a bit lighter, a bit more nimble and quicker? Yeah, sure. So when I refer to unhealthy, I'm not just referring to people who are overweight. I'm referring to people who are a healthy body weight, but, you know, don't move, they're not active, they don't have good cardiovascular fitness. If you want to make an excuse as to why you are where you are, you will.
And coming back to the subject, like tracking your nutrition, tracking your calories, for you know, it is right for someone, it's wrong for other people. If it is right for someone, what is the first action when it comes to, in your opinion, that it comes to tracking your calories? Like, where do you start?
Don't reduce your calories drastically.
Okay.
Regardless. So as much as it's a numbers game, always work within moderation.
Right.
So whenever I know I've been like consuming something in excess, whether that's food, whether that's alcohol, whether that's cigarettes, whether that's social media, you don't want to strip it away entirely. So when it comes to tracking the calories, I'm not going to say, okay, I've gone from, because I was overweight, I was probably consuming over 4,000 calories a day. Now I want the weight to come off, so I'm going to go for 1,000 calories. That's probably as much calories as your little boy consumes, who is not even 2 years old. Like, that's a stupid amount. And the issue is with MyFitnessPal, because it kind of weirdly tracks your movement and different things and isn't always accurate. I know some people who have signed up with the app and they're like, yeah, but it's told me I should be on 1,300 calories a day. And this is a relatively healthy 5'7" woman who weighs 75 kg telling me that they should be on 1,300 calories a day. That's an issue. So work with a professional.
Right, okay.
Whether it's a nutritionist, whether it's, and if you can't afford to work with someone, you've probably got a friend who's relatively fit and has tracked calories before. You've probably got access to the internet. So probably type in, is 1,300 calories healthy for an adult-sized woman?
Yeah. And
most situations, no.
If you go that route, I'd say, you know, look at various sources as well, right? You're not just going to look at the first thing like Google's going to tell you. I mean, there's everything on the internet is true and correct, right? You need sources, right? You need perspectives and obviously, go-tos like friends and people that have done it before. Maybe they can shed some light on.
I don't know how you feel on stuff like, I know this is a bit off topic, but things like alcohol, fast food, smoking, I know is a bit of a taboo one, but even for me, I occasionally smoke and it's something I probably shouldn't do. But it's a similar thing of like, I know my personality, I'm self-aware, and if I completely restrict myself from something, like I've already explained, I end up binging. Do you know what I mean? So even with those things that they are inherently bad. Alcohol has no benefits, junk food has no benefits, smoking has no benefits. They all suck. Okay, they do nothing good for us in any way. No matter how good that glass of wine feels, it's giving you nothing. Absolutely nothing. However...
Oh, there's our timer again.
Timer!
No, we ain't listening to the timer. We'll do a couple more minutes.
However, They are things we all enjoy.
Did you hear him laughing then?
Yeah, Gareth's on a mad one in the office.
Gareth, you're good in front of the camera. Come and join
Just
us.
as I start talking about naughty things. No matter how bad these things are, we all want them, don't we? We all have our own little vice. And for me, like, if it's something that has been in your life for a long time, for me, I first started smoking when I was about 13 years old. Now, for me, it's not, and people be surprised that you're a personal trainer and you smoke. Not a lot, but yes. But it's something that's been in my life for such a long period of time that I know when I'm, again, feeling motivated, feeling good, I won't smoke for months, it's great. And the minute I'm in a bad place and think, well, life is pointless, life is worthless, I can't be asked, then you start binging on something. And it's the same with alcohol. If you've been drinking most days, even if it's just one glass of wine since you were like probably younger than 18, and you're now in your 40s, why would you think suddenly cutting it out is going to be something that's even remotely achievable? There's very few people that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And with food, it's even harder because, okay, alcohol and smoking, you can cut out and you won't die. So if you're really, really like hard hitting with it, can I stop smoking? Yeah, of course I can. In the same way, you never have to drink alcohol again. The problem is with food, we're going to have to eat food for the rest of our lives every single day.
Yeah.
So our relationship with it has to be spot on.
Absolutely.
It's complicated.
I think we'll leave it at that. That was great. I mean,
that's no answer. Should I track or not?
Yes and no.
Maybe.
Come chat to us. Come chat to the pros, and then we'll go from there.
If you've been a healthy weight all your life, like this lucky man.
I still have to work hard, mind.
Yeah.
I have to work, especially with the baby.
Yeah, that's
I don't want like a dad bod or anything.
Yeah.
But it's not that I have to. I want to.
And some people want to. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Psycho.
And some people, the emphasis is always on, you know. When I was big, I always used to look at skinny people, not saying you're skinny, I'm just pointing in your direction. I always used to look at people who are stereotypically slim and be like, oh my God, they're so lucky. But the amount of people who are really, really slender naturally and eat a lot and are like, oh, I wish I could just be a bit thicker and a bit more muscular. Actually, like everyone's on their own journey. So when it comes to the tracking, the emphasis isn't always on losing weight. Sometimes you track because you want to make sure you're getting enough fat, you're getting enough protein, and that can be a useful tool. Not forever.
No. But tracking in general it's going to have its benefit. It can be all-consuming, sure, but it's going to have it. Regardless, it's always going to have benefits, and it's a good way of tracking your progress and seeing little tweaks again, like what do I need to change, what do I need to do more or less of, or what do I need to cut out entirely. In
the same way, training, exercise is all amazing, but you can't do like 5 sessions in one day every day of the week.
No.
Overtraining just leads to burnout.
Absolutely, and that is another topic.
That is another topic.
So much to talk about. But we ain't got a problem with that, have we?
Talk forever.
Till next time.
Yeah. Sick!